What's happening, boys and girls? James from Sigma Strength and Physique. Got a very sweet arm workout for you today. The idea with this video is to try and demystify arm work in the sense of trying to give you an understanding as to the kinds of exercises we want to do and the amount of them and why. I sort of find that arms tend to be, for most people, almost this unique or I guess sui generis body part where people tend to treat it completely different to every other body parts, i.e. just try and superset everything and just get a pump rather than actually going for some mechanical tension. That's understandable because they're small muscles, they're not going to move a ton of weight, and people tend to inevitably get some sort of elbow problem. So lightweight and a pump isn't necessarily a bad thing and can be one of the reasons people tend to sort of move towards that quite naturally. But I think there's a way to get the best of both worlds, and the point I'm trying to make is that getting as much heavy weight into muscles is always the best way to make them grow. That with a good profile that sort of matches the strength curve of the muscle, i.e. weight being lightest when the muscle is the shortest and weight being heaviest when it is the lengthened range. I do a quick warm-up which I'm happy to discuss with people if they want to post below, but most of you don't care about that. But warm-up on arm day in particular is super important for elbows. So I basically just do a couple of sets of one arm tricep press down and a couple of sets of one arm preacher curls where everything's aligned nicely, i.e. wrist, elbow, shoulder. And then we move into what I call the money movement, or the movements where we move the most weight, where we're well braced usually, and we have the most potential to grow. Now for me, that tends to be a, I don't even know what you'd call this, almost like a cable skull crusher. So loading the weight up, bench almost upright, and what I'm doing here is ensuring that my elbows are facing directly up. So this is my heavy set. I've warmed up on a few sets of this already, and I'm not fussed with a full lockout here. I'm really interested in loading this through, I guess, the lengthened range of the triceps, so where it's basically bent the most. Obviously trying to get close to, I wouldn't actually lock out, but trying to get close to lockout is always good. But a lot of the value for this movement for me is actually really trying to get a ton of load through the tricep when it's essentially, like I said, mid and lengthen range, and just little partials, and you sort of drop it. Elbows facing up, super important. We don't want to be driving the shoulders forward at all. So I'll do probably 1 to 2 heavy working sets on that, and then I'll mix in 1 to 2 heavy working sets of a bicep curl, which is almost inevitably a preach curl of some type, just because the lineup's great. We're able to get our elbow, forearm, same thing pretty much, our wrist, elbow, and shoulder. You see me trying to get my position there. I want everything in a nice straight line. What I'm actually doing is putting my finger in my elbow, and the cue for me is really trying to get my elbow to squash the finger. So I'm driving my tricep hard into the padding, and it just ensures that I'm actually, contracting or shortening the bicep optimally. The good thing about one arm preacher curls, again, which you can do on a preacher curl bench or a bench press, is you can assist yourself with the other hand. So I'll basically try and take this past failure. The set's over when I can no longer really control the eccentric. But this is just a good line-up movement where you can really just go nuts. So you're going to find some bicep movements like barbell curls, even on your easy curl bars, just in virtue of the angle that your hands have to be on to supinate, or the position of your elbows relative to the hands. There's a few different components which we can go through in detail if you want to. Just makes it less optimal. With this, I can really lean into it, get my positioning right, and just make sure that everything's lined up perfectly, and all I have to worry about is just basically output, just driving that tricep hard. And this is, in my opinion, probably the dumbbell may actually be more optimal, just due to the profile, but this is, in my opinion, probably the go-to bicep movement for me, just because it has everything we want. It's got good profile, so the weight's heaviest, when you're using a dumbbell in particular, the weight's heaviest when our bicep is the strongest in length and range, and it's the lightest as the weight comes up and the elbow ends up being beneath our hand, beneath the weight. So that was my working set on that. I think I showed both left arms, but there was a left and a right in there. And now I go into my drop sets of both. So I want to get 1 or 2 heavy working sets, which I do, and then I'll drop into probably 3 to 4, depending on how I feel, drop sets. So I'll probably start 10-20% below my top weight. So if your top weight was 100 or whatever, I'd probably take it down to about 80 just so I can ensure I can get around the rep range I want, which is going to be around that sort of 8 to 15. And again, just dropping it, just going to failure. And this is where we talk about our metabolic component that's going to make us grow. So we've got our mechanical tension, which is obviously our heavy weight, which is important. And then we drop into, I guess, a metabolic component. And I'm very happy to do the same movements for the metabolic component because they're well lined up, they're well braced, and they're hitting the muscle well. So there's no need to do 50 movements. If you find a few that tick all those boxes, stick with them, go nuts. The body doesn't really understand, in a sense, about variety. It just understands load. It understands, obviously, your joints understand angles and pain and whatnot. So if you find one that hurts, go mad on it. As you can see, I'm just finishing with partials straight in. And what I'm really doing as I come up is I'm pushing back. So I'm actually pushing my arms back as I come up. I'm not just driving straight up. I'm pushing back into it to ensure that my upper arm does not drive forward at all. My elbow point is facing the roof at all times. That way I can ensure that the long head of the tricep is getting hit. And just quickly on hitting different heads of the triceps. Obviously the tricep has 3 heads and bicep has 2, obviously. Don't worry about trying to get specific about hitting. I don't know of any study that I know of where you can actually isolate one over the other. Yes, you can probably bias some. Long head of the triceps, obviously a good one to hit, and that tends to get hit when your shoulder is in a sort of stretched position, because it tends to, the long head of the tricep attaches, as I understand, over the shoulder. So when the shoulder is in that position where it's kind of up and stretched, then you tend to bias it. But again, whatever's going to get you to move the most weight, where you're braced and obviously pain-free through the elbow, is absolute money. So this is that elusive right arm that we were talking about, and sort of into drop sets. So grab it and go. And so you can sort of see a bit of a pattern. Did warm up for the tricep, warm up for the bicep, one heavy set of preacher curls, one heavy set of skull crushers, and then into a series of drop sets for each. And just go nuts, particularly with this one-handed stuff where you can really give yourself some assistance. Obviously you've got a training partner that can help you. Fantastic, and that's probably one of the benefits of the preacher curl machine, is it's probably easy to spot with for yourself and definitely for a training partner, but nonetheless. And then I'll go into a couple of other movements. Triceps is my focus for today. I do tend to hit arms all in one go for the most part, but biceps are pretty cool from that, so I thought I'd actually just throw in an extra couple of tricep movements as opposed to doing maybe bicep, tricep, and then another bicep, tricep. And again, we're looking at lineups here. We're looking at weight moved. This is an absolute cracker. So what we're looking at here is making sure that the upper arm is almost sitting on a shelf. So it's almost sort of like sitting, so it's not sort of up or down, if that kind of makes sense. I probably should give you a side angle. And then we're just driving the hands forward. You can almost drive them in to each other, and you're really just pushing against the weight. And as you can see, the reason we're using the cables here is this constant tension. We don't have the benefit of gravity on the eccentric, in the sense if we're doing something with like a dumbbell, for the most part, as we're coming down, the dumbbell tends to not weigh anything, because the gravity here, we've got tension as we push away, because we're pushing away from something behind us, and there's still tension on the eccentric as we fight against it here. And you can just see the amount of flexion I'm getting through my arm here is just nailing the triceps the whole way. And you just go absolutely nuts. And I think I do a couple of drop sets on this one as well. Why do I do this before the rope skull crushers? Probably because I can move more weight on the rope skull crushers. So I tend to obviously bias the movements so I can move the most weight first, because I think they're going to be the best potential for growth. And you can just really just go nuts on this. And then I actually finished with some more single arm work. Again, can give yourself a little bit of assistance. So here, I have trouble straightening my arm right down. I want to drive it straight down. Got old elbows, so I find that just going just shy of lockout for me gets enough of the tricep. And what I'm actually doing is trying to stay nice and upright. If you lean forward too much, you won't sort of hit I think it's the long head of the tricep. You'll sort of notice it when you do it, but because again it's attached over the shoulder, you'll find that the more upright you are, the more upright your scapula is, I guess, or the more the scapula is pinned back, the more you're going to activate the tricep. But that's all there really is to it, and a few drop sets. So I did a few drop sets on the previous movement. Just go nuts on this. I probably do 3 drop sets on the left, 3 drop sets on the right, and that's all you need to do. So the idea, guys, like any other body part, it is finding 2 or basically good movements that are going to have a good profile. We can move a ton of weight, and then like most workouts, we'll probably throw a metabolic component in there, so we're getting the best of both worlds, getting all that pump and making muscles grow. Post any questions you have below and make sure you subscribe. Ciao.